Welcome to the Movies of the Damn podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you hear here today, please check out our Facebook page and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter at Damned Movies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Today, we'll be discussing Ridley Scott's 1979 film, Alien. En route to Earth, the crew from a starship is awakened from their cryosleep to investigate a distress call from an alien ship. During the investigation, Executive Officer Kane discovers a chamber containing eggs and touches one, which causes a creature to spring out and attach to his face. Once back on the ship, the creature eventually detaches itself from an unconscious Kane and is found dead. Kane soon awakens with memory loss, but is otherwise fine. During a subsequent meal, Kane begins convulsing with a small alien creature eventually bursting from his chest and escaping into the ship. Unable to locate the alien, crew members begin getting picked off one by one as the alien grows. The remaining crew decides to self-destruct the ship in an attempt to kill the alien and escape in a shuttle. But only Warrant Officer Ripley survives to reach the shuttle, with the main ship exploding. However, Ripley soon discovers the alien has also made its way in the shuttle. She is then able to use gas to flush the creature out of an airlock door and utilizes the engine exhaust to ignite it, seemingly destroying it. John, opening thoughts on the movie?
I could talk about this film for a long time. This is one of the first films this is the first film of the Alien franchise, and it has inspired, influenced so many other films in a crazy amount of aspects. So filmmaking, practical effects, script writing, just everything. It's a revolutionary film, and it was done in 1979. I'm concerned about what you think about it, Kyle.
I think one of the first things that you said right there was really interesting. From 1979.
Yep.
When you watch this movie, it does not seem like it was from the 70s.
Exactly.
It obviously doesn't feel like it was from 2019.
No.
But it doesn't feel outside of the scope of the last couple decades. Like,
that's right.
I thought that this was very well done. I thought that this is obviously a classic, and like you said, an incredibly influential film. There's a ton of good we can say about this movie, and we will. And I'll echo your words that we could talk about this one for a long time.
For sure. And what I like, there's just so much in this film. So there's a couple of interesting things that were spawned from this film. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but for me, I was looking at it earlier today, and it kind of made me laugh. So from this film, there's this thing that was created from either, I think it might have been film students or someone wrote about it. It's called the Bechdel test, so Bechdel test, or DEL. I can't read my writing there. Sorry about that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, so this what they call is if the judging a movie, if a movie is determined to be a female positive movie, it must have two aspects that are from this film. And those two aspects are more than one female in the movie, and the two females do not talk about men.
Okay, and so this test was based on what they saw in Alien.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
As a female positive movie.
Oh, very, very interesting.
I thought it was very interesting. And they also had another thing called Save the Cat scenario. Right? So
they saved the cat. Yeah.
Yeah, so Ripley, throughout the film, you see her as a very pragmatic, strong leader type person. You don't really get a lot of sympathy or empathy from her. So saving the cat had the audience, what the theory is that it had the audience be more affectionate towards her and have some sympathy and empathy for the main character. So there's so they coined the term "save the cat" to throw in screenwriting when you have a character such as that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I thought those were really interesting when I read about that.
And so that right there speaks to what you just talked about the film being so influential, right?
Yeah.
And when you first said influential, I thought that you meant just purely based on kind of how it's there's so many movies that are like kind of based on
For sure.
plot and the filming techniques and the creatures and then the franchise and everything like that. I didn't realize that you meant in this way, but that's very cool.
I know it's a different way, right? So it's an unusual way. So I was really, I thought it was very interesting. It made me smile.
Just while we're on the topic of the cat, that brings me to one of my issues in the film. When Brett's getting killed, and as it's kind of happening, it keeps zooming in on the cat's face, kind of watching that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I thought that was that made me roll my eyes, kind of a little bit junk that they kept zooming in on the cat's face, being like, oh, the cat's sitting there watching it happen type of thing.
Okay, so why did you have a problem with that?
I just thought it was kind of corny.
Corny. Okay, so here's the thing. So why, you got to ask yourself why you thought that was corny.
I don't know. When it was happening, I just thought it was kind of weird, kind of, I don't know, not usual, just kind of, I thought it was unnecessary to keep zooming in on the cat's face.
Okay, so it's not corny or unnecessary. The only thing I'm trying to get at is that, like, so this is a filming technique from 40 years ago.
Okay.
Right? So you may have been exposed to other films in that time. You obviously have been. And so you might have had some sort of experience like that before with another film, so it made it seem corny or unnecessary. But I would suggest that means that you're projecting these other things onto a film that preceded that. Maybe
a little bit. I can't think of something off the top of my head where I've seen that before, but obviously it has been done before. It just seems silly. Maybe silly is a better word.
The reason why I liked it is, like, one, the cat was a barometer for when the alien was around.
Yeah.
Right. It just kind of, it's like that whole sensor thing, but it was an animal that was doing it actually. And the whole reason that Brett was killed was trying to get that cat.
Oh, they were looking for the cat. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I didn't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
One other thing that I thought was funny, and I didn't have a problem with it, but it is what it is. It's just like you see the ship and their computer monitors, the big clunky computer monitors. It's supposed to be in the future, right? And I get that this film wasn't made for a huge budget or anything like that, and it was from the 70s, but it kind of makes me laugh a little bit, but that's not a huge problem. It's not a big deal.
That's a product of the times, right? There's nothing you can do about that.
One thing I absolutely loved, I loved that kind of, I'm going to call it a jump scare, when they're investigating and Kane comes across those eggs and kind of touches the eggs, and the creature jumps up and goes through his, like, face shield or whatever, the helmet, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That, when I know we call a lot of things jump scares, but that actually made me kind of jump off there. And even though I've seen this movie before, but it has been a few years since I sat down and watched it through.
Yeah. Same with me. I haven't watched it in a few years.
When that happened, and I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But it made me kind of jump off my seat a little bit, right? I love that. That was a great piece of filming.
What I liked about this is that, and I noticed it before, and I'm pretty sure everyone else has noticed it, but I appreciate it. I enjoy it. It's like the subplot to it, right? So they investigate this alien ship, and normally when you investigate the alien ship, you're investigating the hostile alien ship, right?
Where this was a distress signal.
This was a warning, right?
Yeah, they kind of weren't sure.
Yeah, they weren't sure, but the company told them that they had to go there to investigate it, so they went there and investigated it. Fine, right? But it was like this alien ship, was warning other people to stay away, but they couldn't, it's an alien dialect or alien signal. You don't know, you can't really know what it means, right? But I like the part with the one alien sitting at that ship and the hole in its chest.
Yeah.
Like, there's a foreshadowing there, right? That you don't even know about because you haven't seen, that part hasn't happened yet. But it burst itself out of that alien's chest, and then with the context of everything else going on, right? With all the the warning signal and Ripley unable to reach them, and then Ash trying to don't worry about it, right? Doing all the stuff,
and you find out later why, right?
So it's just I loved it. I loved how everything kind of worked together this way, and it was like, and you knew what was going on, and Sigourney Weaver did a great job, Ripley, of, like, she was suspicious, she was skeptical, but not at the same time, not enough to go into that paranoid realm, right? So I have nothing but good things to say about this film.
My one question for you, just because we have to, like, this is a classic. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, we're giving this overwhelming thumbs up, but we have to be a little nitpicking about some
For sure,
things.
let's do it.
When they're bringing Kane back to the ship,
Yeah.
the fact that he isn't quarantined, how did you feel about that?
So I was going to ask you about that because you sent me a text going, I don't know, and I thought it might have been about that, right?
Oh.
So because my whole thing is like I go, okay, I bet you this is Kyle's stupid decision, right? But who lets them in?
No, I hear you.
Right?
You.
And that his whole job was to do that.
But, okay, so I get it. We decide, okay, we're not
So
going to...
the main character, just to be clear, did not make a stupid decision.
No. Fair enough. And so, okay, I can get my head around, okay, we're not going to desert them here on whatever, the other ship. Or we're going to bring them back. But once we bring them back, we're going to put them in some type of room and no one's going near them.
Yeah.
That's what I think would have happened.
I don't think so.
No, you think they would have been like, yeah, back on the ship, everyone around, whatever.
Well, here's the thing. Once that guy's back on the ship, Sigourney's no longer in charge. And they address that.
Okay.
Because she says to Ash, when he's not on the ship, I'm the officer in charge.
Yeah.
You were not to let them in. Because he said, oh, he's the captain. He told me to let them in. And she's like, well, when he's off the ship, I'm the captain. And I said not to let him in.
Okay.
So she addresses that issue, right? Where it's like that thing. But once the person's in, what's the point of the quarantine? You don't even know what you have.
Oh, you have an alien creature that's attached to its face.
Yeah.
So I think they're in a sealed room at that point, and maybe the only person going near them is the doctor, who would be wearing like some type of a hazmat suit or something like that, kind of like how they would treat a quarantined person now.
Okay, so how they would treat a quarantined person now? So remember, are you projecting 2019 standards on a 1979 film?
I think that's how they would treat a quarantined person in 1979. I can't
Well,
tell you for sure, but I don't
for
think
sure.
So they're bringing them on the ship, fine. I think that they would put them in, let's call it the medical bay or a room or something like that.
Which they did.
And yeah, exactly. And then not everyone is going to be allowed to go and visit them. Only one person, and that person would be in a mask, maybe in a spacesuit, maybe in some type of a hazmat suit.
Okay, so the only person that did visit him was Ash and the captain. The captain had already been exposed to this alien, so could have been part of the quarantine. And for that time,
maybe I'm misremembering then. The rest of the crew wasn't in there when they were kind of trying to detach the creature and found that it's like blood, I'll call it, was corrosive and everything like that.
No, so it was just Ash and the captain.
Okay.
Right, but that being said, at some point I think they're all around this thing.
Yeah.
Right. So. But at that point, when they cut the knuckle on that thing, and the acid starts to go through, the captain ran out and was like, "It's going to eat through the hull," and then they all followed him. Right,
okay.
So they all weren't in the room.
Yeah.
The captain ran out of the room, said, "It's going to eat through the hull," and then they all started to follow him to see how far it was going down.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was only the captain and Ash in the room.
Okay.
Right. So, and I could see what you're saying about that. I still don't about the whole quarantine thing. I still don't find an issue with that, because the way the whole vein of the thing was, right? So the captain's already been exposed to it. The captain's concerned about his shipmate, about Kane, and Ash has an ulterior motive agenda. So there's no one actually fighting to follow the proper protocol, right? They both have their own personal agendas.
Yeah.
And the both people that have a say in it are the ones that are making those decisions, right? So Ripley made her decision, and she was attacked by that Lambert girl. Remember? You're gonna leave us there. That thing, right? Which was awesome, right? Because it shows her character. It's good character development. And but the people that would have made the decision about the quarantine and about how they treat this alien, they're invested in. They're in the room, and they have their own ulterior motives. So I don't really have an issue with that.
No, and now that you kind of explain it through, it does make a little bit more sense. But you can see why at face value, I might be like,
absolutely.
But fair enough, right? And again,
I think the reason why what you're saying makes sense is because of how Ripley was like, no, we're not letting you in.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's so concerned about the quarantine, but once they're in, then they're letting it go, right? But once again, it's not her that was letting it go.
And again, nitpicking a little bit, another small nitpicking thing. So they're at this meal. Kane is back to his old self. He, again, like I said in kind of the summary, he has a little bit of like memory loss, like, hey, what happened type of thing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, there's nothing wrong with them. Nothing they can find, at least.
Yes. Well, the Ash knows there's something wrong.
Well, of course. Well, yes, but at this point, we don't know that, right?
Well, no, you kind of do.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, that's why this movie's amazing.
Yeah.
Because they did a lot of building up with that, right?
Yeah.
So remember, Ripley came in behind him, and Ash didn't know she showed up. He was looking at a screen of the interior of Kane, and he was looking at it, and you could see something on the screen, and when she came in, he turned it off.
Okay.
You knew he was hiding something, right?
No, fair enough. But then they're sitting there. This alien bursts out of his chest.
Yeah.
He's dead. He has the hole in him now.
Yeah.
The alien scurries off, and then they decide, okay, we got to go and hunt this thing. Of course they do. They have to hunt this thing.
For sure.
But then they're hunting it. They have like no like armor on, or at the very least like long sleeve shirts or masks or anything like that. Don't you think they might want to gear up a little bit for this hunt? Okay,
so at this point they're chasing after a thing with flamethrowers and whatever, right? And at that point it's no bigger than the cat.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Right? So I don't have a problem with that either.
No issue at all, right?
No.
I guess it's just my thing, 'cause I'm a baby, right? And I am petrified of wild animals. Like the one time we had a mouse in my house here, and oh my gosh, I was like stereotypical. Oh my gosh, there's a mouse down here.
You know they don't generally attack you, right?
Exactly, right? So again, maybe I'm just portraying myself in that position. I'm like, we're going to hunt anything.
Well, you know what? And that might have been something that could have been, done nowadays, right? They'll have one character who's like that. It would get geared up or whatever, right? But these guys, you know what they were doing? They were like light years away from their home, mining for, you know what I mean? Like these aren't wimps, right? These are people that.
That's a good point, right?
Like
somebody who's gonna go hundreds of millions of space miles or whatever you want to call it. You're right. They're not going to be a wimp like me who's like, oh, I don't want to touch this mouse, right?
Yeah. So like, I don't have an issue with that.
No, and that makes sense. The one thing that I loved, and it was because you and I talked about this issue in The Thing. Remember when the computer in The Thing was able to compute all those ridiculous statistics? Like, this is so dumb. I love that in this one, they were trying to literally do the same thing, and the computer's just like unable to compute, which is so much more realistic, right? Because it's impossible to compute those things that it's asking for, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I just love that, and as soon as that came up, I'm like, oh, I took a note of this. I'm like, John's gonna love this because of how big of an issue I had with those statistics that came out in The Thing, right?
You did have an issue. It was pretty funny. I remember that.
So those type of things. Now, so was there one scene in particular that you just absolutely loved that made this movie for you, or was it more of like the complete package type of thing?
See, I don't have an issue with any part of this film.
No, I don't mean issue. Like what?
Sorry. Yeah. So the question. Yeah. So what I liked more than any other, I loved the scene when he burst out of the chest. And you know why I loved it the best? Because when the alien's there and it's like moving around, in the background you can see Kane's hand still twitching. I fucking love that. I thought that was so amazing, so detailed, so it was just wonderful. A small detail, but I picked up on it. I'm like, I love that right there. That was great. And I liked a lot of the scenes where the alien was hiding in plain sight. I loved it because it was black and the type of skin
so
that
it could camouflage itself so much. Because it was a darker movie. Like, I mean, like lighting wise, right?
Yeah, for sure. But it was also like the way they designed it. It kind of fit in with the mechanics of the ship. Like, remember when Ripley found it on her escape pod, right? Like the way it was curled in like that. It was like, wow, right?
Yeah,
so it's just, I thought that was very, very, like, it was just hiding there. Like, and you saw it, like I saw it immediately when it was hiding up in the chains before it killed Brett.
Yeah.
And, but, the way it hung there, motionless like that, like if you weren't paying attention, you might not have seen it.
As the viewer, you mean?
Yeah, right? Yeah. So I thought there's so, like, it was just amazing how they brought that to the screen.
And obviously, I'm asking a tough question here because you probably can't even really remember the first time you saw this. Mm-hmm. But I remember the first time I saw it, and I will tell you, I'll be completely honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
The scene when they're eating and it bursts out of out of Kane's chest that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming, even though there was that foreshadowing of they found the alien. With
Well,
the hole
either
in its
did. Like, I
chest.
saw it a long time ago, right? So
Yeah.
I saw the hole in the chest that said, and they even said it looked like something burst out from in between them. And then you have that thing stuck down his throat. Like, they gave you all the clues, but I don't think I remember.
I didn't put it together.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. I don't think I did it, but it could have been only because the violence of it.
Yeah.
That was quite an incredible scene.
Oh,
You're never really.
for 1979.
Yeah, so you're not really ever prepared for something that violent, right? Like, and that's what it was. It's more of a shock thing. Like, you almost suspended your thought process than when it happened. You're just like, what is it? Like, it's visual dynamite. You know
Like,
what I mean?
it was a
Yeah.
jump scare, which at first value might seem like something bursting out of his chest. That's just kind of like, oh, that's gory. That's shock value. It wasn't
No.
like that. It was a jump scare.
You know what
and
I
it
even
fit.
liked about it even more? Like, I really love that scene. I gotta tell you. So they're holding him down, right? And he's like switching around and doing whatever. And they're like, "Hey, do this, do this," and they're trying to like help him or do whatever. And then the first hit out of his chest, and then the big blood splatter. So it's like boom, and then there's blood goes everywhere. Everyone stops. All the actors stop and they're looking at him because they're all shocked. There's like, what just happened?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that's such a small detail. It was great. And then he starts twitching again. They're fighting him. And they don't know what's going on. Like, those small things are huge. They really draw you in, and they add to the suspense and the tension. And I was pulled right in. I was not looking away. You could not get me to look away.
Oh,
Loved it.
This is not a movie that you turn off.
No. And there was a slow burn. Like, at the very beginning, right? They had all just the shots of the interior of the ship, right? And the ship turning back on and doing whatever. And you see Kane sitting up in bed and he's just sitting there, like, you know, after he just woke up with his eyes there. Like, there's a lot of slow pictures, but it was still interesting. I was still interested the whole time. And I think when a film can do that, like putting something on the screen that you would think normally is boring, but it's interesting. That's genius. That's an amazing ability in my mind.
And it had to do with the originality of this, the way it was presented, the acting, the special effects, everything was near perfect. And the critics agree with that, obviously.
Yeah.
We've said it's a classic. Right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it's sitting at 97.
Yeah.
The one thing I thought was really interesting is a couple articles that I read said that when this movie first came out in 1979, the critics were originally a little bit mixed on it. So it got some mixed reviews when it first came out, but then over time, obviously, it's developed into a classic, and
Yeah,
that's
for
how
sure.
it's near 97 now. I just thought that was a little bit of an interesting tidbit. The Rotten Tomatoes audience score, 94.
Okay.
So a little bit lower, but still, like, we're talking mid-90s here,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to be in the 90s. I'm guessing you are as well.
Yeah, I'm almost 100, right?
Near perfect for you,
Yeah,
and that's what I
yeah.
thought. It actually won an Academy Award in 1979 for Best Visual Effects,
Of course.
and it was nominated for Best Art Direction,
That's amazing.
which was kind of cool.
That is
Now,
amazing.
one thing I wanted to get into a little bit is the box office stuff, which is incredibly interesting for this movie.
Okay.
And at first, like, thought you're like, how can that be interesting? Are you
Yeah.
just going to read me a couple numbers? But we'll get into it here. So, the budget was set at, they think it's somewhere between 9 and 11 million.
Yep.
Box office, there's thought that this movie made anywhere from 105 to 203 million. And you might say, well, that's a big range.
Yeah, like, why are there thoughts on that?
Because of how shady the record keeping was back then. So back then, this movie was kind of financed through 20th Century Fox, and then kind of like a bit of a smaller kind of production studio that was almost like a subsidiary, but they were separate to 20th Century Fox by the name of Brandywine.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of made this thing together, but then 20th Century Fox basically said to them in the 11 months where it was released, oh, actually, Alien lost us $2 million. Through like some creative accounting procedures that were done back then, right? So basically, from what I was reading here, is like 20th Century Fox was trying to kind of like screw over this other production company.
Oh, for sure.
And be like, oh, no, we spent so much money on advertising and this and that. We've actually kind of like lost money here. And it was kind of at the time, this was a big thing, and it was coined as like Hollywood's creative accounting.
Yeah.
So they were kind of moving stuff around to show that something wasn't as successful as it was,
Yeah.
to kind of like hurt these smaller people so that
Yeah.
the studio could keep the majority of the money. And eventually they kind of like changed it, and by August of 1980 they said Fox readjusted its figures to say that it actually made a $4 million profit, which still everyone was like, no, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is junk. This is like the biggest movie at the time, right?
Yeah.
So it eventually resulted in a huge lawsuit because Fox is like, no, this movie wasn't successful enough to warrant a sequel. So eventually Brandywine ended up suing them over their kind of their profit distribution tactics, huge lawsuits. They ended up settling, and that's how kind of the sequel came about in 1983 when they agreed to fund, I guess it was called Aliens or Alien 2, however you want to call it.
It's called Aliens.
I know, but it was the sequel.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I just thought that was kind of cool just to see about that, and just imagine that this small little Brandywine production company hadn't have pushed the issue,
Mm-hmm.
hadn't have really like filed that lawsuit and been like, no, this is ridiculous. This movie is obviously making money.
Yeah, doing the 20th Century Fox. Yeah, that would be doing like.
And then
might not
imagine
have
there
had
was
one.
like there was just Alien and that was it.
Yeah.
It was just a standalone.
Aliens is the only sequel that I'll recognize though,
What do you mean?
out of all the Alien franchise.
What about the prequels? You didn't like Prometheus? No.
No.
Really?
You did?
I did. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I guess maybe I'm just a sucker for this franchise, maybe, and I can't tell you that I've watched Prometheus more than once,
Mhm.
but I like the world that they live in. I like the franchise, so like I want to see these other movies. Having said that, like the Aliens and versus Predator crossovers and stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
they're that's totally different. I wouldn't even count that within the same universe. Like it is, but it's not, right? It's not within the same franchise parameters, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. So because you're introducing a separate franchise, a secondary franchise, right? So I just mean in the actual Alien franchise. I only recognize this one and the James Cameron film.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, only because like the other, and you know what, Aliens 3 was done by David Fincher, and I love him. He's a great director. He's an amazing director, and I did enjoy it, but they just kind of messed up. But I think they're trying to hit a reset button on it, and bring back the alien suspense from the first film, whereas because Aliens was more action, so.
Yeah, but like John, we just talked about, like you had this movie at close to 100. Like this is almost perfect. Like this is lightning in a bottle. So obviously everything that comes out after that is going to disappoint you a little bit.
Aliens did not disappoint me. Aliens
and you know what?
did
Maybe
not
that'll
disappoint me.
Obviously, that's going to be one that we eventually get to on this podcast.
Oh, we're going
too.
to talk about it very soon.
Yeah.
Very soon. We're going to have to.
Excellent,
I love it.
right? And I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it, right? Because this was a good movie.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of good things to it. But I just, again, coming back to my previous point, I just think it's so wild that for a while there, 20th Century Fox has been like, no, this movie lost us money. We're not making a sequel.
Yeah.
And then
but and that being said, to your other point though, like the Alien 3 and then the Alien 4, I want to call it, but whatever. Then you have the prequels, right?
Yeah.
They made a ton of money for the companies, right? So on that standpoint, yeah. 20th Century Fox, if the suing didn't happen, you wouldn't have had all those other ones. But the only I just meant like the only one that I thought was brilliant and held up and still holds up is Aliens.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. And we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that one later. But this is obviously a classic franchise. I'm going to say it's one of the greatest movie franchises of all time.
Yes.
Just as far as you look at the box office numbers that it's done, the number of actual releases that it's done in theaters and just everywhere else, that it is one of the most successful franchises. And it's obvious why that happened looking back now, just when we watch this 1979 movie in 2019 and it still holds up.
Just look at the character development, right? There wasn't a lot of like monologues or anything going on in there. You just saw what they did and how they, like, it was so subtle, and you knew what the characters were about. You knew what, like, it was so brilliantly done, so well done.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't, like, a lot of times, like, that's the whole thing, right? They always say show, don't tell, right? That's the whole thing about movies and books, like show, don't tell. So when you write it, show them what you see in your head. Don't tell them what you see in your head. So there's a big difference with that, right? So This one is brilliant with that. It just showed like the how they interacted. They're smoking around the table, the way Lambert lost her mind, and they're so subtle. But you knew what these characters were within the first 5 minutes. It was just well done.
It was well done, and I know I was a little critical on kind of those clunky computer monitors, but there was other things that I thought were cool for futuristic. I love those kind of like those cryo sleeping pods, we want to call them.
They were cool.
I thought that kind of that
Yeah.
looked really like realistic for the future, right?
Yeah.
But it was just so funny, and I think it was almost back-to-back scenes where you see the clunky computer monitors and the cryo sleep chambers, and I'm like, well, we've hit a home run with one, and then we've gone down swinging on the other.
That being said, you know what I liked? I liked when Ash was watching the video feed of the ship when they're approaching it. I thought that video feed was good. I liked it.
No, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, like when Sigourney goes in to get to the bottom of this by talking to Mother, which is the name of the computer, in that room, and all the ceilings are just these like flashing white lights, just kind of going in different weird sequences. I was like that. I agree, that's cheesy, right? But for what it did, like at the time in 1979, it wouldn't have been cheesy. It would have been like gold, right?
Not at all, right?
So like even now when I watch it now, I didn't even think about it, right? You thought about it in an abstract way, but not in a way that it would pull you in any way out of the film.
No, for sure. And I just thought one more funny thing to add is when they first came up with this script, they had a hard time kind of getting it financed and everything like that. And two big reasons why it got made. Number one, they tagged it as Jaws in outer space. Have you heard that term before?
Yeah.
And then the second one was obviously based on the success of Star Wars.
Yes.
That helped get this financed as
Star
well.
Wars was 77?
I believe so.
Yeah, 77.
My apologies if we're wrong on that date. But yeah, I believe it was 77. But I just thought those two things were funny, that it's just like Jaws in space and Star Wars. Well, yeah, we'll give this one a try.
Yeah, it sounds like, wait, two great blockbusters? Let's put them together.
Yeah. But then this one lost money.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you see how, like, looking back now, it's so ridiculous to think that they claim that this thing lost money.
I know.
Well, buddy, anything else to add?
No.
Well, folks, thank you for listening. Please check out our Facebook page, and also please check us out on both Twitter and Instagram @DamnMovies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you'd like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. Please also check out John's full-length novels. His first two novels, Dollhouse and The Tracker, are Amazon bestsellers, and his new novella, Balance, is also available on Amazon. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, I just want to mention real quick, Dollhouse Today, my first book, just hit 400 ratings on Amazon and is still maintaining a 4.4 stars. So I was very happy. That's a good milestone. I want to thank everyone that takes the time to leave a rating. It really helps with the algorithms, and I really want to thank anyone who actually reads my books, actually. But it's also nice that you leave a rating. And if you have time, it'd also be good if you could leave us a rating on our podcast here. That'd be great. But do you, and have a great week, and be kind, everyone.